There are everyday moments that may seem insignificant, stepping into a strange room, meeting someone's eyes for the first time in a meeting, or simply sending a few short lines through a screen. Yet it is in those very moments that an invisible verdict is passed. People look at how we show up and immediately shape our value in their eyes. This judgment happens so fast that we haven't even spoken a word or proven anything. It comes from our attitude, our gaze, our tone of voice, and the way we carry ourselves like a silent business card without letters. Personality and confidence are not just personal traits. They are passports in every social interaction. They determine the level of respect we receive, the opportunities we gain access to, and the distance others are willing to open for us to step in. A person who speaks with averted eyes, a hesitant tone, a disordered posture will struggle to earn respect no matter how outstanding their abilities may be. Conversely, someone who has yet to prove any achievements but enters with assurance, clear gestures, and steady eyes will instantly be met with caution, even respect. This is not unfair. It is simply the social instinct formed over thousands of years. Humans have always judged others through nonverbal signals before listening to reasoning. The instinct for survival makes us categorize quickly who is trustworthy, who is a threat, who can lead. That is why we cannot leave our self-image to chance. Failing to manage our personality and confidence means allowing others to label us by their first impression, and sometimes that label can follow us for a lifetime. Think back to the last time you met someone entirely new. How long did it take you to decide if they were worth talking to? A minute or just a few seconds? The honest answer reveals this truth: we constantly judge and are judged without pause. And in this process, what shapes impressions most strongly is not a resume or degree, but the aura someone radiates, the balance of personality and confidence. Personality here is not only about innate traits or temperaments. It is the sum of what we choose to show: composure, patience, ability to listen, humor, sincerity. A person may be talented yet withdrawn, intelligent yet unlikable, and so their opportunities shrink. Meanwhile, another may not yet be at the peak of expertise, but with friendliness, approachability, and the ability to inspire trust, they will be welcomed, granted more chances. Because personality is the gentle bridge between ourselves and the world. Confidence, on the other hand, is the pillar that supports the entire structure of personality. Without confidence, personality becomes a loose ornament, sometimes shining, sometimes falling apart. Those lacking confidence, no matter how well-intentioned, are often overlooked because their voice fades in meetings, their eyes look away when decisiveness is needed, their steps slow before a competition. Confidence is the multiplier that makes every other quality shine. It doesn't shout loudly, but it gives weight to even the smallest gestures. In the workplace, people quickly notice who is solid enough to be entrusted with responsibility, not only through competence, but through how they speak, how they hold eye contact when presenting, how they handle tough questions. The same is true in society. Confidence draws a sharp line between those who are led and those who can lead. And in personal relationships, confidence determines attractiveness because it conveys safety and reliability. The irony is that most people wait for confidence as if it were a gift that will fall with time. They think, with a few more years of experience, I'll be less nervous. But the truth is the opposite. Confidence does not sprout on its own. It is forged through deliberate, conscious steps repeated until it becomes second nature. Like muscles, it only exists if we train it. Waiting for it to appear is like waiting for good health without ever exercising. Therefore, the key question is not whether we already have confidence, but what we are doing each day to build it. Small steps, making eye contact, daring to voice an opinion, initiating a conversation are the first bricks. Layered over time, they form a solid foundation. At the same time, we are also shaping and refining our personality because daily actions not only change how others see us, but also how we see ourselves. In the connected age, the power of personality and confidence is amplified. On social media, a single sentence or a short video clip is enough for others to form an image of us. At work, one brief presentation, one 10-minute meeting can either open or close a career door. In this fast-paced environment, personality and confidence are no longer options but conditions for survival. Make no mistake, confidence is not arrogance and personality is not pretense. The arrogant build hollow displays while the confident carry steadiness from within. The pretender may imitate friendly gestures but lacks the consistency to sustain them. True personality is honed by how we think, react, and choose. Each day it becomes clearest under pressure. We can imagine personality as fragrance and confidence as smoke. When someone enters a room, if the fragrance and smoke blend naturally even without words, their presence is felt. If one is missing, the atmosphere turns bland or awkward, and if both are absent, the person becomes invisible in the crowd, easily forgotten. The question is, how do we want others to see us in the first meeting, the first conversation, the first impression? The world doesn't wait for our explanations. It reads us through personality and confidence, then responds accordingly. If we want respect, we must appear as someone worthy of respect. If we want opportunities, we must signal that we are capable of seizing them. And if we want lasting relationships, we must make others believe that our steadiness is not fleeting but part of who we are. No one else can build that image for us. Others only mirror what we project. The root is not demanding better treatment from them, but shaping ourselves to deserve that better treatment. Personality and confidence, once solid foundations, become a silent language that precedes any introduction, paving the way for every action that follows. If this video inspired you, hit that like button to spread the positive energy and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on life-changing insights. But don't stop there. I want to hear from you. Comment below and share your biggest takeaway or the one step you're committing to today. And make sure to turn on the notification bell because the next video will reveal powerful strategies to break your limits and unlock your best self. We're building a community of action takers and dreamers, and I want you to be part of it. There is an illusion rooted in the minds of many that confidence will naturally appear when enough time has passed, when we become more mature, when we accumulate more experience. They wait for it as if it were a surprise gift falling from the blue sky. But the harsh truth is, time does not grant confidence. It only deepens the habits already in place. If someone chooses to live in avoidance 10 years later, they will only be more skilled at avoiding. If someone is accustomed to remaining silent 20 years later, their voice will only be further buried. Confidence is not the result of age. It is the product of action. Every small step, every challenge faced, every moment of daring to show up instead of hiding is a brick that builds the house of confidence. Those who wait to feel ready before acting often never take a step because so-called readiness never comes. The trembling, the unease, the awkwardness will always be there. The difference is, this confident people know how to act even before the fear has faded, and it is precisely that action that makes the fear disappear. Confidence is like muscle. No one is born with a strong, muscular body. Even the strongest person began with trembling hands lifting their first weights. Over time, muscles are formed through consistent training. Stop training and the muscles deflate. Maintain it and they become solid and resilient. Confidence is the same. It does not stay with those who refuse to train. It remains loyal only to those who continually test the limits of themselves. Many people mistakenly believe that confidence is instinct, a natural charisma that some are simply born with. In reality, confidence is a set of skills forged through experience and deliberate effort. Those who dare to start conversations do so not because they are unafraid of rejection, but because they are familiar with it and have realized that rejection does not diminish them. Those who dare to stand and speak do so not because they are certain their words are perfect, but because they have trained themselves to speak up, knowing that mistakes can be corrected, but silence must never become an identity. If we look into the journeys of successful individuals, we will see one common trait. None of them began fully confident. They all once stumbled, failed, and felt embarrassed. But instead of retreating, they treated those moments as mandatory practice. Through each experience, confidence grew not because fear disappeared, but because the ability to act despite fear became a habit. The most important foundation of this mindset is the acceptance that discomfort is not a signal to stop, but an invitation to move forward. Many think I'm nervous, so I'm not ready. But in fact, trembling only proves you are stepping into something new, the very place where growth awaits. If you only do what is familiar, you don't tremble, but you also don't grow. If, however, you find ways every day to step further into uncertainty, you will see clearly discomfort gradually becomes familiar, and within that familiarity, confidence takes root. Confidence does not come from avoiding mistakes, but from learning how to stand firm after every stumble. A child learning to walk doesn't wait until certain before stepping. They fall, get up, fall again, and eventually their legs grow strong. Adults are different. Many wait until they feel certain before acting. But the paradox is without acting, certainty never arrives. Another mistake is equating confidence with luck or external success, some believe. When I make more money, I'll be more confident. But money only magnifies what already exists. A person who doesn't believe in themselves will remain insecure even if they become wealthy, always comparing and doubting. Conversely, someone with true confidence, even when empty-handed, still walks with their head held high, and it is precisely that posture that attracts new opportunities. Confidence is not a delusion of self-importance either. It does not need loud cries of "I'm the best" to mask insecurity. True confidence is quiet but enduring. It lives in every choice and every gesture. The confident do not need constant proof because consistency in their actions is proof enough. To cultivate this foundational mindset, one can start by asking each night, "What did I do today that I avoided yesterday?" The answer does not need to be grand. It just needs to be slightly different, daring to ask a question in a meeting, daring to greet a stranger, daring to voice an opinion, daring to complete an unpleasant task. Each small act accumulates, and at some point you realize you are standing in a place completely different from where you began. The power of daily training lies in this. It transforms change into a new identity. When you repeat long enough, you no longer think, "I am practicing to be confident." You begin to think, "I am a confident person." That is the turning point. For once that belief takes root, you no longer have to force yourself. Every natural action carries the mark of certainty. Therefore, instead of waiting for the day confidence suddenly falls into your lap, treat every day as a gym. Each conversation is a training set, each decision a weight to lift, each challenge a round in the fight. Others may only see results after months or years, but you will be the first to feel the daily difference within yourself. The core truth is this: confidence does not just arrive. It belongs only to those who dare to step out of their comfort zone, repeat the right actions, and build brick by brick a solid mindset. It is not a miracle. It is the discipline of growth. There is a subtle truth that few people notice before others hear what you say. They have already seen your eyes. Eye contact is a wordless introduction, a silent yet powerful message that determines the very first impression others form of you. It can turn an ordinary sentence into something persuasive, or conversely make even the most eloquent words fall into emptiness. In today's fast-paced society, people don't have the time to verify your character over many years. They rely on initial signals to judge you, and among all signals, eye contact is the strongest. A steady gaze can instantly create trust. An evasive glance, on the other hand, plants seeds of doubt even if you haven't said a single wrong word. Ask yourself the last time you spoke to someone who kept looking away, glancing at their hands, or shifting their gaze elsewhere. How did you feel? Perhaps you sensed they weren't interested or that they were hiding something. You might have even felt disrespected. But when someone looks directly at you with calm eyes, their presence makes you feel deeply. This person is truly listening. They are here with me. That is the power of eye contact. It not only changes how others see you, but also how you see yourself. Social psychology has shown that eye contact is humanity's primal communication tool. Before language existed, people used gazes to identify threats, trust, or friendliness. That instinctive imprint remains within us. When you avoid eye contact, the other person's brain interprets you as uncertain, insecure, or dishonest. In contrast, a steady, unhurried gaze sends a signal you are strong enough to be present and stable enough to be trusted. What's more, eye contact not only affects the other person, it also impacts you. When you hold a steady gaze, you send a signal to your own brain that you are in control of the situation. Confidence doesn't just appear outwardly, it is reinforced internally. You start to feel more certain about your words, and that certainty makes your voice clearer, your rhythm calmer, your gestures less awkward. In professional environments, this difference is especially evident. Those with strong eye contact are often seen as trustworthy and capable of leadership. They don't need to speak loudly or try hard to prove themselves. With a gaze steady enough, the entire room will listen. In personal relationships, eye contact expresses sincerity. Someone may say, "I care about you," but only when their eyes align with their words does that message truly touch the heart. However, eye contact is not about staring. A gaze that is too intense makes others feel pressured, even backfires. The subtlety lies in balance. The gaze must be long enough for the other person to feel your presence, but also include short breaks to create comfort. It is like the rhythm of music, moments of sound and moments of pause. This alternation makes the conversation feel natural. Many excuse their lack of eye contact by saying they are naturally shy. But in reality, the habit of avoiding eye contact is not about nature. It is built through repeated avoidance. A person avoids once, then again, and eventually it becomes reflex. The only way to change is through gradual practice. At first, just hold eye contact for 3 seconds while listening, then 5 seconds while replying, then through an entire exchange. The initial discomfort will gradually fade, replaced by ease. A useful technique is to focus on the color or shape of the person's iris. This helps you keep your gaze without feeling awkward. Also pay attention to accompanying body language, leaning forward slightly, removing your phone or distractions. All of these naturally make your gaze more focused. This creates an atmosphere of genuine connection. Remember, in every interaction, people don't just listen with their ears, they listen with their eyes. When you say, "I believe in this," but your eyes wander, people believe your eyes more than your words. When you say, "I value your opinion," but fail to look directly, your words ring hollow. Conversely, if your eyes radiate certainty, you don't need to say much at all for others to feel your strength. There is also a deeper impact that few recognize. Eye contact trains you to be present in the moment. Instead of worrying about how you appear or rehearsing what you'll say, eye contact forces you back to the other person, to the conversation right now. And it is this presence that people remember. Someone who is fully present, even for a few minutes, leaves a stronger impression than someone who talks for hours with their mind elsewhere. If you've ever felt invisible in groups, lacking presence in conversations, look at how you use eye contact. You may have been shrinking into yourself through evasive gazes. Change this one habit, and you will notice the difference immediately. People start listening more. Your words carry more weight. Your presence becomes undeniable. Eye contact is like a silent commitment you make to the world. I am not afraid to be seen. When you allow others to truly see you, you are sending the message that you are confident enough to be present, brave enough to reveal yourself, and that is precisely what makes you trustworthy. This is a foundational principle because it not only shapes external impressions but also defines how you feel internally. It is both a social tool and a psychological exercise. Every time you hold eye contact, you connect not only with others but also with yourself, affirming your presence in this world. Confidence begins with presence, and presence begins with the eyes. A calm, steady, unguarded gaze is the most powerful declaration you are here and you are worthy of being heard. People often misunderstand that eye contact simply means looking straight at the other person. But if you stop there, you will easily fall into awkwardness, either looking too little, making others think you are uninterested, or looking too much, creating pressure and discomfort. The power of eye contact only unfolds when it becomes a natural flow, blending into the conversation like breathing. The question is not whether you dare to look, but how to make your gaze both steady and relaxed, free from any sense of acting out a script. Training eye contact is essentially retraining your nervous system. The body's instinct under stress is to avoid the eyes dart elsewhere to relieve pressure. By practicing deliberately, you gradually condition your nervous system to face instead of flee. The initial tension dissolves, replaced by calmness. This is the difference between someone awkwardly forcing themselves to hold eye contact and someone who has built it into a new instinct. They are not thinking about looking, they are simply present. A practical way to begin is to break the goal into small steps. Don't pressure yourself to maintain long eye contact right from the start. If you usually avoid it, set a goal of holding a gaze for 3 seconds during a short reply. Once familiar, extend it to 5 seconds. After a few weeks, you can sustain eye contact through a longer statement and eventually throughout a full conversation. Increasing duration gradually is like physical training. The eye contact muscle is strengthened and confidence grows alongside it. One small but useful technique is to focus on the other person's eye color. When you notice details like light blue, deep brown, or the reflection of light, your mind anchors itself and avoids drifting into worry. Instead of thinking I'm being stared at, you are genuinely curious and observing. This turns your gaze natural, no longer forced. Furthermore, to practice effective eye contact, you must align it with your whole body. If your eyes look but your body turns away, the signal is still off. When listening, turn your body slightly toward the speaker. Set aside your phone or papers so your eyes are not just an action but part of your full presence. This alignment makes the other person feel valued and you feel more grounded in your own presence. Another subtle point is creating rhythm. Holding eye contact continuously throughout an entire conversation is not only uncomfortable for you, but also for the other person. The solution is to alternate with small breaks when listening. Look into their eyes for a few seconds, then briefly glance at their hands or gestures, then return. When speaking, begin with direct eye contact, then occasionally pause for a breath or thought before reconnecting with your gaze. This rhythm is like music: enough steadiness, enough pauses to avoid tension. You can also practice in simple daily situations. When paying at a store, instead of looking down at your wallet, raise your eyes to meet the cashiers and say thank you. When greeting a colleague, don't just flash a quick smile, add a few seconds of eye contact. These small moments are free practice sessions, low-pressure environments where you sharpen the skill. For those truly shy, a gentle first step is practicing in front of a mirror. Stand before it, imagine you are conversing with someone, and hold eye contact with your own reflection. At first it may feel strange, but gradually calmness will emerge. This way you program your brain with a sense of familiarity, making real eye contact with others less intimidating. The important thing to remember is that eye contact is not just a technique. It stems from inner truth. If you practice only to look confident, your eyes will reveal pretense. For your gaze to carry power, you must genuinely be present in the moment, truly care about the person in front of you. When you listen with sincere attention, your eyes naturally transmit that care. Naturalness doesn't come from controlling every second, but from your inner connection to the conversation. In this sense, practicing eye contact is a dual journey: outer training and inner building. You practice techniques to overcome avoidance, but at the same time you cultivate the habit of truly paying attention, of being genuinely present. That is why confident people often have bright, clear eyes. They are not pretending to care, they actually care. Another major benefit of practicing eye contact is that it helps you manage emotions. When you maintain a steady gaze, you stop being preoccupied with anxious thoughts in your head. Your gaze acts like an anchor, pulling you back into the present. The mind quiets, your voice becomes clearer, your posture more stable. In other words, practicing eye contact is also practicing presence, a priceless quality for anyone who wants to have influence. Gradually, as eye contact becomes natural, you will notice a subtle shift. You no longer try to be confident. Instead, you have become confident. Because your eyes are no longer a technique you must remember, but a new instinct you carry. That is the point where you move from learning a skill to owning a quality. In summary, practicing natural eye contact is not a matter of 1 or 2 days. It is a process of training, from small to big, from conscious effort to unconscious ease. From holding a gaze for 3 seconds to noticing eye color, aligning the body, creating rhythm, to truly being present in the conversation, each step a brick laid, gradually forming a lasting habit. One day you will walk into a crowded room and realize you no longer avoid, no longer think, am I looking long enough? You simply show up with clear eyes and everyone instantly feels, here is someone worth listening to. There are moments when you know clearly you should speak, yet your lips remain silent, not because you lack an opinion, but because of fear of opposition, fear of ridicule, fear of creating tension. So you choose silence, nodding along with the majority, even though deep down you disagree. Each time you do this, you think you are keeping the peace, but in reality you are stripping pieces of strength away from yourself. Silence in such moments is not harmless. It quietly builds an image of you in the eyes of others, someone bland, easygoing, lacking the weight to be heard. And more dangerously, it builds a reverse belief within yourself. My opinion doesn't matter. Over time, you not only fear speaking, but also forget how to speak. Speaking your opinion, especially when it feels uncomfortable, is precisely where confidence is forged. Not when it's easy, not when it's safe, but right in the midst of unease. For strength of character never emerges from comfort. It is formed only when you step past the boundary of hesitation. Why is this so important? First, because it affirms your self-worth. Every time you speak, you send a message to the world and to yourself that I have a perspective and it deserves to be heard. You do not have to be right. The value does not lie in whether your idea is accepted, but in the fact that you dared to stand by your thinking. Others may disagree, but they will remember you as someone with a stance rather than a faceless shadow in the crowd. Next, speaking out frees you from dependence on approval. Much hesitation stems from the need to be liked, to be accepted. Yet the paradox is this: the more silent you are to gain acceptance, the less respect you truly receive. People do not respect easy compliance. They respect honesty even in disagreement. When you dare to say what makes you uncomfortable, you prove that you are not controlled by the nods of the majority. Another deep effect is the building of inner trust. Each time you speak while trembling with your heart racing but still push through, you are teaching yourself, "I can." Courage accumulates into habit. Today you speak up in a small meeting. Tomorrow you can stand firm before an auditorium. Confidence does not come from theory, it comes from lived experiences of overcoming challenges. This also strongly affects how others see you. In the workplace, those who speak their opinions, even if different, are often viewed as proactive and independent thinkers. They become the ones leaders trust, colleagues notice. In personal life, they are trusted friends and partners because you know they won't pretend to agree just to please. This transparency nurtures lasting relationships. Of course, speaking up does not mean arguing or imposing. Many confuse confidence with aggressiveness. True strength does not lie in shouting louder, but in expressing clearly, calmly, and respectfully. An opinion voiced in a composed tone is far more persuasive than an assertion delivered with hostility. One way to practice is to start small. When the group decides where to eat, instead of saying, "I'm fine with anything," offer your choice. When friends discuss an issue, contribute what you know instead of only nodding. These small steps are warm-up exercises, strengthening your language muscles for tougher situations ahead. Remember also that speaking up benefits not only you but the group. Many times a team goes astray simply because everyone stayed silent. No one dared to voice what they saw. One opinion, even if a minority, can save a project, change an outcome. By daring to speak, you become the factor that breaks the silence, opening the door to real dialogue. Some may ask, what if my opinion is rejected? In reality, rejection is not nearly as bad as you imagine. Worse is never speaking at all. A single rebuttal does not make you smaller. On the contrary, it trains you to endure disagreement, to keep standing tall. That resilience turns you into someone who does not collapse under doubtful looks. There is also a subtle benefit inspiring others. When you voice your opinion through discomfort, you give silent people an invisible permission. They realize silence is not the only safe option. They are encouraged to share too. As a result, not only do you grow stronger, but your environment becomes more vibrant and authentic. Each time you push through discomfort to speak, you step further away from the cage of fear. Eventually, you realize fear was never a real wall, only a shadow. Once you walk through, the shadow vanishes and you find yourself larger, more confident, freer. Speaking up in discomfort is both an act of courage and liberation. It frees you from the slavery of approval while building the solid foundation of confidence. No one can respect you if you don't respect your own voice. And there is no way to learn this except step by step opening your mouth and speaking out. Once you understand this value, you see discomfort differently. The tightness in your chest, the sweaty palms, the racing heartbeat, these are no longer signals to retreat, but signs you are exactly where growth happens. Because only through that territory do you discover your strength. And from the moment you choose to speak, life begins to shift. You no longer live like a leaf tossed by the wind, but like a tree standing firm in the wind. Your opinion becomes an extension of your identity. And every word you speak, no matter how small, is an affirmation: I am here, I have a voice, I am not afraid to be seen. There is a truth few dare to admit. It's not that people lack opinions, but that many lack the ability to express their opinions appropriately. The world is full of people with sharp thinking who choose silence, and equally full of people who talk endlessly but no one wants to listen to. The difference does not lie in whether one has opinions, but in how those opinions are presented. It is precisely the ability to speak appropriately that turns a voice into influence. Without it, opinions are easily dismissed or even backfire. Speaking appropriately is not compromise or weakness. It is the art of balancing strength with subtlety. The first step in practicing appropriate expression is clarifying your thoughts before opening your mouth. Those unprepared often speak in long, rambling ways that make it hard for others to grasp the point. Ask yourself a short question. What is the most important thing I want to convey? Once you identify the core of the message, you will say less but hit harder instead of letting your words wander. Clarity in thought reflects inner confidence, and it also prevents your words from being seen as meaningless display. The next skill lies in tone of voice. People react to how you speak even faster than to what you say. A rushed, hesitant tone easily signals uncertainty, while a harsh tone makes them put up defenses. To speak appropriately, keep a moderate pace, pause at important points, and let your breath set the rhythm of your words. A calm, clear tone, loud enough but not overbearing naturally, draws others toward you. Appropriateness also lies in word choice. A statement filled with commands or absolute negations often leaves a bad impression, even if you are right. On the other hand, if you use open and constructive language, you not only convey your opinion, but also preserve space for dialogue. For example, instead of "this is completely wrong, try," I think there's a point here we could revisit to make it better. People are far more receptive to feedback when it is wrapped in respect, and it is precisely such word choices that set you apart. One often overlooked yet extremely important factor is listening. Many think that to carry weight they must speak more. In reality, deep listening lays the foundation for appropriate speech. When you truly listen, you understand what the other cares about, what they fear, and you can adjust your expression to avoid unnecessary opposition. Listening carefully before speaking also shows that you care not only about asserting yourself, but about truth and shared benefit. At that point, your words are not only appropriate, but carry greater persuasive power. Practice should begin in small situations. In casual discussions, practice offering your opinion instead of saying anything's fine. In your family, clearly state what you think about a decision instead of leaving it to others. These small practices build reflexes. You gradually learn to speak without too much tension, to keep your tone balanced, to let words cut to the point instead of circling around. Once reinforced, these reflexes easily carry into more important settings like work meetings or tense conversations. A major obstacle in this process is the body's reaction. Many people before speaking feel their heart race, their hands shake, their voice catch. This does not mean you lack courage. It is simply a biological reflex to stress. The key lies in managing your breath. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, plant your feet firmly on the ground, sit or stand upright. When your body stabilizes, your mind calms, and from there your words naturally carry weight. Speaking appropriately does not mean you will always be agreed with. There will be times when your opinion is challenged, even completely rejected. The issue lies in how you respond. If you lose composure and attack immediately, all efforts to project confidence collapse. But if you listen, accept differences, and then restate your stance with reasoning, you demonstrate true strength. Others may not agree with you, but they will respect you. Respect is the priceless reward of speaking appropriately. Another important step is self-reflection. After every time you speak, ask yourself, did I express myself clearly? Was my tone too fast or too harsh? How did the listener react? Continuous self-evaluation helps you refine, avoiding repeated mistakes. Progress doesn't come from one outstanding speech, but from dozens of small practices where you gradually correct details until your words become sharper and more refined. Finally, speaking appropriately only truly carries power when paired with action. No matter how skillful a viewpoint, it becomes meaningless if you don't live by it. When others see you act on what you say, your words become standards rather than just words. When actions reinforce your voice, you don't need to speak much. Your presence alone makes people listen. Speaking opinions appropriately is not a one-day skill, but a steady process. It requires you to train from clarity in thought, calmness in tone, constructiveness in words, to listening ability and self-reflection. When all these elements converge, you don't just become someone who can speak, you become someone who is listened to. And in a world where everyone wants to speak, being the one who is listened to is the true success. There are details that seem small, yet determine the very first impression you leave in the eyes of others. One of those is the act of initiating a greeting. Most people tend to wait for others to start a conversation, only responding once the greeting comes. But when you are the one to open with a greeting, you don't just create a positive social signal, you also send a deeper message. I am here with confidence, with readiness to connect. And in that small moment, you have already set the rhythm for the entire interaction. Greeting first is not a mere formality. It reflects your choice to stand in a proactive stance rather than a passive one. Someone who greets first is like gently tapping the opening beat of a song, setting a comfortable rhythm for others to join in. By contrast, when you only wait, you hand over the power of initiation to others, letting them decide the mood of the encounter. A greeting offered at the right moment is like the first ray of morning light. It shapes the emotional tone for the whole conversation that follows. Some people think greetings are just politeness, that they don't matter much. But picture two scenarios. You walk into a room and encounter someone with their head down in silence, or you walk into the same room and meet someone who looks up, meets your eyes, smiles, and says good morning. Instantly, the energy shifts. In the first scenario, the air feels heavy and you tread cautiously. In the second, you feel welcomed, seen, and are naturally inclined to open up. That is the power of greeting first. It does not change the content of the conversation, but it changes the emotional foundation upon which the conversation unfolds. Initiating a greeting is also a declaration of personal image. People often remember you not only for what you do, but for how you make them feel. When you consistently begin with a greeting, you gradually become known as someone positive, approachable, trustworthy. Conversely, if you are often silent, avoiding eye contact, only greeting when forced, others quietly categorize you as passive, closed off, lacking confidence. A single act that seems simple silently builds or erodes your personal brand in the eyes of the community. Psychologically, greeting first gives more to you than to the other person. When you speak first, you prove to yourself that you are capable of taking initiative. The feeling of "I set the rhythm" immediately makes you more grounded in communication. This is an antidote to social shyness, the very thing that causes many people to shrink back. Just by speaking, once you break the cycle of self-doubt, it's no longer "do others notice me," but "I have created the connection." This belief accumulates day by day, eventually becoming a natural aura. Of course, for a greeting to have impact, the delivery must be thoughtful. A muttered greeting without eye contact or a smile brings little value. The right balance is best meet the other person's eyes for a few seconds, speak clearly at just the right volume, and add a light smile. No need for theatrics, no need to be overly enthusiastic, just be genuine. When you greet with this attitude, people feel your sincerity and naturally want to respond. Some may worry that if they greet first and the other person doesn't respond, they'll feel awkward. But the truth is, the value of the greeting does not depend on their reaction, it depends on your action. Whether the other person is busy, distracted, or simply unwilling to reply, you have still sent the signal: "I am ready to connect. I am not afraid of being ignored." This matters more than any answer because it builds internal confidence. An unanswered greeting is only a fleeting detail. The fact that you dared to initiate is the real practice. In the workplace, those who know how to initiate greetings are often rated higher socially. They create a positive atmosphere, work more easily in teams, and are remembered as individuals with the ability to connect. In personal life, they are the friends people want to be around because their presence brings warmth. In daily interactions, even greeting service staff, security guards, or passers-by, the act not only trains your confidence but also plants seeds of goodwill in your environment. These small details are the seeds that grow into lasting confidence. To build the habit, start with a simple principle in every encounter. If you have the chance, you will be the one to greet first. At work, greet your colleagues before they greet you. When entering a store, smile and greet the staff. When stepping into a vehicle, nod and greet the driver. At first, it may feel forced, but over time you will notice the positive responses, more people smiling back, a lighter atmosphere. And most importantly, you will feel that you are in charge of the situation rather than merely reacting to it. Interestingly, when you greet first, you also find it easier to steer the conversation in a positive direction. The greeting is the opening beat, and when you set that beat, you gain influence over the tone. If the greeting is bright, the conversation rarely falls into tension immediately. It is like lighting a lamp in a dark room. Even if others don't immediately sit with you, you've illuminated the space, making it easier for them to step in. Once this habit takes root, you will realize the power of initiative, not just in communication, but in how you face life itself. Greeting first is really a psychological exercise. You choose to step forward, you choose to act instead of waiting. And when this is repeated hundreds of times each day, you become someone with the habit of leading. The change is quiet but steady, transforming you into a stronger version of yourself. The final result of this practice is not that you become someone who always smiles and greets everyone, but that you become someone confident, capable of initiating in any situation. You are no longer passive in communication, no longer avoiding eyes or lowering your head as you pass. You lift your head, smile, and speak. And such a small detail is enough to change how the world reflects you with more goodwill, more respect, and more opportunities. In society, every relationship begins with an opening beat. When you take the initiative to greet first, you are the one who seizes that beat. And when you hold the beat, you hold the initiative. That is the starting point of a special kind of presence, the presence of confidence, present, memorable, and respected. Words are the visible layer, but tone is the foundation that determines how others receive your message. With the same sentence, if it is spoken in a calm and clear tone, it becomes a statement of weight. But if delivered in a trembling or harsh tone, the meaning immediately shifts. People are often influenced by sound before they have time to analyze content. This means that controlling tone is not only a communication skill, but also one of the fundamental pillars of confidence and influence. To control tone, the first step is awareness. Many people believe they are speaking normally, but when others listen back, they realize their voice is full of tension, rushed, or too soft to draw attention. When the body is anxious, the voice tends to rise in pitch, breaths become short, and speed quickens. In contrast, when confident, the voice is stable, the pitch moderate, and the pace rhythmic. Recognizing this difference is the first step to adjustment. A useful method is recording or filming short conversations and listening to yourself as an outsider. Though it may feel uncomfortable at first, that objective truth gives you the clearest picture of your current tone. The first technical foundation of tone is breathing. Breathing not only sustains the body, but also sustains the voice. When you breathe shallowly, your voice sounds weak, strained, lacking force. When you breathe deeply and evenly, your voice becomes resonant and firm. Developing the habit of inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, letting the breath sink to the diaphragm instead of stopping at the chest gives you a steady source of energy for any conversation. Even one slow breath before speaking can reset the pace, lower the tone, and reduce haste. The next factor is speed. Anxious people often speak too quickly, as if trying to unload a burden as fast as possible. But rapid speech makes it hard for listeners to follow and erodes trust. When you deliberately slow down, adding pauses in the right places, your words immediately gain weight. Short pauses are like punctuation in writing. They allow listeners to digest information and also create the sense that you are in control of the situation, not swept away by it. Then comes volume. Too soft and you appear lacking in confidence. Too loud and you risk coming across as overbearing. The right volume is just enough for the farthest person in the room to hear clearly without feeling shouted at. The secret lies in distributing energy. It's not about yelling, but about letting the breath support the voice so sound resonates from the chest rather than only from the throat. When the voice comes from the center of the body, it naturally becomes richer, warmer, and more pleasant. Another foundation is rhythm. A monotone, flat voice quickly bores listeners, while sudden, sharp fluctuations make you sound theatrical. Balance comes from natural rhythm, varying speed and intensity according to the meaning of the sentence, but not letting emotion dominate entirely. Like a piece of music with crescendos and rests, tone also needs emphasis and pauses, keeping the audience engaged without awkwardness. We cannot overlook the emotional color in the voice. People often remember the feeling a voice evokes more than the exact words. A clever idea spoken sarcastically provokes resistance, while an ordinary thought spoken sincerely can touch hearts. That is why controlling tone is also controlling emotion. Let decisiveness show in a steady low pitch, empathy in a gentle tone, and passion in a clear but unhurried rhythm. One simple yet effective exercise is reading aloud. Choose a passage, read it slowly, pay attention to each word, and experiment with adjusting volume and intonation. Then, record, listen back, and compare with what you imagined. Over time, you will notice the difference: a firmer voice, steadier rhythm, and most importantly, you will begin to hear your own presence through sound. Beyond technique, equally important is inner presence. A voice is truly convincing only when supported by inner belief. An insecure person can hide behind words, but the tone will betray them. A confident person doesn't need to speak loudly, yet every sound carries steadiness. Thus, controlling tone is not only adjusting breath or pace, it is also about the mindset you bring into the conversation. When you believe in what you are saying, your voice naturally becomes whole. Remember, tone is not a superficial coating, but the core that shapes how you are perceived. People may forget your exact words, but they rarely forget the feeling your voice left behind. Controlling tone, therefore, is both a technical foundation and a delicate art, a skill you can train and a reflection of your inner state. And once you master it, you not only deliver messages more clearly, but also make your presence carry greater weight in any space. A powerful speech, an engaging conversation, a statement filled with weight, they all share one common factor: rhythm. A voice that flows continuously and monotonously is no different from a rushing stream exhausting the listener. But if you know how to regulate it, when to slow down, when to speed up, when to pause, your voice becomes an instrument of deep resonance. Pauses are not just empty gaps between sentences. They are the breathing of the message, the space where meaning seeps into the listener's mind. Rhythm is the backbone that supports speech. Those who lack control often speak in one unbroken rush, afraid that if they pause, they'll be interrupted or lose their train of thought. Yet ironically, that rush makes them lose control. Those who master pauses create the opposite effect. They hold the listener's focus more tightly, each word carries more weight, and it is in the silence that the audience feels the power most clearly. Just like in music, notes are not only in the sound, but also in the silence between melodies. One of the secrets of outstanding speakers is daring to let silence exist. The moment of stillness after an important sentence forces the audience to reflect. That is when meaning is emphasized not by dramatic crescendos, but by intentional silence. This silence is different from awkward hesitation. It is firm, as though the speaker confidently allows the entire room to breathe together. In that moment, listeners do not just hear with their ears, they settle with their minds. The rhythm of voice also has the ability to lead emotions. When you quicken your pace slightly during a dramatic description, the audience's heartbeat unconsciously rises with it. When you slow down and lower your tone in a reflective moment, the whole room quiets down with you. The voice becomes the heartbeat guiding the collective. A great leader doesn't need a thunderous voice, but they know how to set rhythm, how to use pauses at the right moment to gather attention and awaken shared emotion. Along with rhythm comes emotion in the voice. Emotion is not shouting or dramatizing, it is the harmony between state of mind and content. A funny story told in a flat tone loses its life. A heartfelt sharing delivered like a memorized reading fails to touch hearts. Conversely, even small shifts in tone, warmth when speaking of gratitude, firmness when emphasizing principles, tenderness when recalling a personal experience are enough to forge strong connection. Listeners don't just receive information, they feel that you are truly present in every word. To control emotion in your voice, it is crucial not to let it be swept away by anxiety. Fear lifts the pitch high and makes the voice tremble. Haste makes it rushed and breathless. Let emotion arise from intention, not from defensive instinct. A simple way is to take a deep breath and pause for a beat before speaking. Breath is the bridge between inner state and voice. When breath steadies, emotion calms, and from there you can choose the most fitting way to convey it. A useful exercise for practicing rhythm and pauses is reading aloud passages with different emotions. As you read, emphasize and pause at key phrases. Read faster in tense moments, slower in reflective parts. Then listen back to the recording and notice how it feels from the listener's perspective. Gradually, you will internalize rhythm so that in real conversations you naturally know when to pause, when to rise or fall without force. A common mistake is thinking you must always keep the pace slow and steady to seem solid. In fact, a voice that is too slow and flat easily bores. The appeal lies in intentional variation, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes pausing, sometimes stressing. Like a dance, speech needs tempo to hold attention. What matters is that you control the rhythm, not that rhythm controls you through tension or excess emotion. Rhythm, pauses, and emotion in the voice are also mirrors of character. The impatient often speak too fast, cutting others off. The insecure speak too softly, afraid to pause. The aggressive speak too loudly, their pace rushed. In contrast, the composed tend to have steady voices, deliberate pacing, confident pauses. Thus, training the voice is not just about technique, it is also training inner qualities: composure, respect, presence. The beauty is that the voice can be trained like muscle. With steady practice, you will notice clear change. At first, you may have to remind yourself deliberately, pause, slow down, add emotion. But over time, these become natural reflexes. When your voice naturally carries rhythm, subtle pauses, and genuine emotion, you will find yourself entering any conversation with solid confidence. People may forget the numbers you cite, forget the arguments you present, but they will not forget how your voice made them feel. A monotonous voice is easily forgotten. A rushed voice creates pressure. But a voice that knows how to stress, pause, and flow with emotion imprints itself in memory. And that is what turns your words into lasting influence. Finally, remember that the voice does not only transmit information, it transmits your essence. Rhythm reflects control, pauses, reveal confidence, emotion, expresses sincerity. When these three elements blend, the voice ceases to be mere sound and becomes an imprint. And once that imprint is left in the minds of others, it lasts far longer than the words you ever spoke. People often judge a speech not only by the words, but also by the stance. Before you even open your mouth, your body has already spoken. An awkward posture, hunched shoulders, feet shifting constantly, all of these send subtle signals that you lack certainty. On the other hand, when you stand firm, even without saying a word, the audience already feels your presence. That is why body language, especially posture, when speaking, becomes the foundation for your voice and words to be heard. An unsteady stance creates noise. The listener doesn't focus on your message, but is distracted by unnecessary gestures. Hands flailing too much dilute the meaning, pacing in circles confuses the audience, and a wobbly stance makes you appear smaller. Each of these minor details is like sand in a machine interrupting the flow of meaning. Proper body language is not for display, but for clearing the path for your content, showing that you are in control of yourself and not betrayed by your body in crucial moments. Standing firm does not mean being motionless. It means balance. Both feet planted solidly on the ground, shoulder width apart, or slightly narrower, not crossed, not pressed together. With this stable foundation, the whole body trembles less. You don't need to try to look strong. Simply anchoring your weight into the ground naturally projects stability. Neuroscience even shows this posture sends signals back to the brain. The body reports safety, and the brain reduces stress. Just by standing correctly, you help yourself feel calmer. The shoulders must be relaxed but not slouched. Many people unconsciously tense their shoulders when nervous, which makes their voice sound rushed. When you release your shoulders while keeping your back straight, your image instantly changes, taller, broader, and most importantly, ready. This relaxation also allows you to use your arms and hands naturally instead of letting them become a burden. Arms are the most common source of noise. Some people stuff their hands in their pockets, which makes them look unprofessional. Others keep crossing their arms, signaling defensiveness. Still, others wave their arms excessively, leaving the audience focused on movement rather than meaning. The best approach is to let your arms hang loosely at your sides when not needed, and use them only to emphasize key points. Fewer purposeful gestures carry far more power than excessive ones. An open palm can convey sincerity. A pointed gesture can show decisiveness, but all must be measured. Eye contact is the bridge between posture and speech. A person who stands firmly but avoids eye contact still makes others feel uneasy. When you look into your audience's eyes, combined with a steady stance, your message is reinforced twice over both your body and your gaze. Consistently declare that you believe in what you are saying. This is nonverbal alignment, when body and voice move in sync, creating an undeniable message. Another subtle element is selective stillness. Those who lack confidence often fall into small nervous movements, tapping fingers, shifting feet, twirling pens, touching their face. They think they are hiding their nerves, but in truth they are exposing them. A confident person is different. They are willing to stand still, free of excess motion. This stillness radiates powerful energy because it shows you are not preoccupied with what to do with your hands. You channel all attention into your message and connect through your eyes. In stillness, your presence reverberates. A useful training technique is to practice speaking in front of a mirror or record yourself on video. At first, you'll be surprised to see yourself moving more than you realized. Watch carefully and eliminate each unnecessary gesture, keeping only what is needed. Practice until you can stand still for a few seconds in front of a group without discomfort. Once you master stillness, your body will no longer drag you around in anxiety. Standing firm when speaking also has a reverse effect. It influences not only how others see you, but also how you see yourself. When you stand tall feet, solid arms relaxed, your brain receives the signal that you are in control. From there, your voice slows and steadies. Confidence is no longer something to perform, it becomes a real feeling. In negotiations or speeches, those with a solid stance often gain the advantage from the very first moment. They don't need to say much, but the entire room already senses their authority. Power doesn't come from volume, but from the ability to be fully present in a space undistracted by your own body. Above all, a firm stance is a sign of respect. Respect for yourself when you show up with a composed, assured image. Respect for others when you don't let unconscious gestures scatter attention, but instead devote all your energy to the conversation. People listen not only because of your content, but because they feel you value the moment. When you combine it all, feet planted back straight, shoulders relaxed, arms controlled, eyes connected, you eliminate all noise from your body language. At that point, every word reaches the listener in its purest form, unhindered by clumsiness. People remember you for your ideas, your message, not because you kept shifting or waving your hands. And it is this clarity that gives your words multiplied weight. Ultimately, standing firm is not just a communication technique, but a life philosophy. It reminds us that if we want others to listen, we must first stand firmly on our own feet. A steady posture is a silent declaration. I am here, I am not avoiding, I am strong enough to be heard. And when you radiate that, the world will adjust its rhythm to listen to you. There is a simple truth many people don't want to face. Confidence does not come from the things you already do well, but from the things you once feared yet dared to confront. If you only repeat what is familiar, you will become more skilled in your comfort zone, but remain weak in unexpected situations. It is precisely the things you usually avoid that hold the key to growth. Each time you confront them, you are not only completing an action, but also expanding the boundaries of yourself. Humans naturally tend to avoid situations that bring discomfort. It could be asking a question in a meeting, making a call to a stranger, presenting an idea to a group, or simply saying no when you don't want to. The brain immediately labels these experiences as danger, forcing you to retreat to preserve the feeling of safety. But the paradox is this: the more you avoid, the bigger the fear grows. What you turn your back on does not disappear. It only swells in the dark, waiting for another chance to stop you in your tracks. The only way to break this cycle is to challenge yourself every day. It doesn't have to be something grand, just small, consistent steps. With persistence, what once felt like a towering mountain gradually turns into a hill. More importantly, you begin to build the belief I can. This belief is not granted by anyone. It comes only from lived experience, from small victories over your own hesitation. Imagine someone afraid of speaking up. On the first day, they decide to say just one short sentence in a meeting, even though their heart pounds. The next day, they ask a question. A week later, they try sharing a longer opinion. Each step doesn't erase nervousness immediately, but it helps the body and mind get used to being present. Eventually, what was once a challenge becomes normal. This is how lasting confidence is built, not in a giant leap, but in hundreds of small steps repeated over time. Challenging yourself daily also dismantles procrastination. When you constantly do what you fear, you send a message to the brain that discomfort won't kill you, it only expands you. Because of that, bigger tasks later on no longer seem as intimidating. You form the habit of acting even when uncertain, instead of waiting for the elusive feeling of being ready. And this is the fundamental difference between those who progress and those who remain stuck. It is important to note that daily challenges do not mean reckless action. It is not about jumping straight into your greatest fear, but breaking it down into manageable steps. Someone afraid of public speaking doesn't need to start with a presentation in front of 100 people, but can begin by starting a conversation with a colleague. Someone afraid of saying no doesn't have to resist a major demand right away, but can practice refusing small, unnecessary tasks. These exercises are like lifting weights. You don't start with the heaviest barbell, you increase the load gradually over time. With persistence, you'll notice something interesting. Many fears exist only in imagination. Before acting, you imagine them as terrifying. Once you do them, they're not nearly as bad. The brain tends to exaggerate worst-case scenarios to stop you from acting. but when you face them directly, you prove to your brain that those scenarios rarely happen. Thus, the loop of fear, avoidance, weakness is broken and replaced with a new loop: fear, confrontation, growth. Challenging yourself daily is also a way to plant the seeds of self-respect. Each time you do what you fear, you send a message to yourself that you are courageous enough to act. You begin to trust yourself more, not because of encouragement from others, but because of tangible proof you've created. This is confidence that cannot be borrowed and cannot be faked. It is truth etched into your memory through each moment of daring to step forward. No one can do this practice for you. Others may encourage you, but only you know what you usually avoid. Honesty with yourself is the starting point. Write down the 3 things you avoid most often, then choose the smallest one to begin with. Each day, repeat the challenge, not perfectly, but without quitting. After a month, look back and you will see how far you've come. Successful people are not those who feel no fear, but those who treat fear as a training ground. They know that discomfort is a sign they are moving in the right direction. They don't wait for confidence before acting. They act to build confidence. And because of this, they grow day by day while the majority remain trapped in a comfort zone that feels safe but is actually suffocating. Standing at the threshold of any fear you always have 2 choices: retreat and let it become chains, or step forward and turn it into a springboard. Each day when you dare to challenge something you once avoided, you choose to step forward. No noise, no audience, only you, knowing that today you've defeated yourself once again. Over time, these victories accumulate, transforming you into a person with a natural confidence that needs no forced effort. Challenging yourself daily is not a slogan. It is the only path to building true confidence. And when you make this principle a habit of living, you will realize no fear is strong enough to hold you back. Only the choice to quit can stop you. A sentence spoken too quickly easily slips out of the listener's memory like a rushing stream. But a sentence delivered with a slow rhythm with pauses and depth is like a drop of dew falling onto the surface of a lake. It leaves ripples that spread, forcing the listener to pause, feel, and reflect. The weight of words lies not only in content, but also in rhythm and the way you deliver them. When you speak slowly, you give yourself an aura of steadiness. You send the message that you are not rushing to prove yourself, not panicking to explain, but confident enough to make others listen. In daily life, many people have the habit of speaking fast. They fear being interrupted, fear others' impatience, or simply rush because of nervousness, trying to unload everything in their heads at once. Yet speaking too quickly often leaves listeners tired, missing the main points, or believing you lack composure. Fast speech makes words feel light, like a piece of music played in a rush without emphasis. By contrast, slowness resembles deep notes, fewer but profound, just enough to anchor themselves in memory. Speaking slowly does not mean dragging on. It is the control of pace so that each phrase has space to breathe. A skilled speaker doesn't need to say more than others. They know how to speak in a way that makes the audience remember more. When you speak slowly, each idea is given time to sink in. It is this absorption that creates real impact. Body language and voice also gain power when paired with a slower rhythm. Eye contact combined with a pause at the right moment can make the listener feel you are speaking directly to them, not just reading to a crowd. A deep breath before answering a difficult question makes you appear composed instead of flustered. These small details give your words weight, no matter how simple they may be. Picture 2 people saying the same line: "I believe we can do it." The first says it quickly in one breath, as if trying to escape the situation. The second lowers their voice, pauses briefly, then articulates each word clearly. Just by listening, you feel the belief of the second person is stronger, even though the meaning is identical. The power comes from the delivery, not just the content. Importantly, when you practice speaking slowly, you are also practicing control over your mind. People who speak fast are often driven by chaotic thoughts, while those who speak slowly force themselves to choose and organize. Instead of being swept away by emotion, you learn to lead it. This makes listeners trust you more because you don't let haste overwhelm clarity. Speaking slowly also allows you to wield a special weapon: silence. A short pause at the right moment can feel more powerful than 100 words. Silence is like a spotlight shining on a key point, compelling the listener to focus. Great orators, from politicians to master speakers, all understand that silence can resonate louder than words. But silence only has value if you first master your own pace. In everyday communication, speaking slowly makes you more approachable. When you don't rush, the other person feels respected and heard. They are not dragged into a chase with your words, but are given space to respond. The calmness in your tone convinces them that you are confident and sincere. They want to keep listening rather than wish for the conversation to end. Another benefit is reducing misunderstandings. When speaking too quickly, your words easily run together, leading others to mishear or misinterpret. Speaking slowly and clearly ensures your message is delivered accurately. This is especially crucial at work, where a single misunderstood word can cause serious consequences. However, to speak slowly in a natural way, you need practice. Start by paying attention to your breath. Inhale deeply, speak in rhythm with your breathing instead of trying to pour everything out at once. Practice reading aloud a passage deliberately, pausing at the right places to train your ear to the new cadence. When in conversation, observe the other person's reactions. If they nod or respond, your pace is right. If they look tense or restless, you may be speaking too quickly. A simple tip: instead of thinking you need to impress with the number of words, think you need to impress with the quality of each sentence. Slowness forces you to choose words more carefully, making each one sharper. This restraint increases the value of every word you say. Remember that speaking slowly is not a sign of lack of passion, but a sign of mastery. Leaders and influencers are not the ones who speak the most, but the ones who can make a whole room fall silent to listen to every word. And that only happens when they control their pace so that their words carry weight. When you cultivate the habit of speaking slowly, you also change how others perceive you. In their eyes, you become calm, insightful, and trustworthy. In your own eyes, you realize you can control not just conversations, but also your mood and self-image. This is lasting confidence without the need for flamboyance or noise. Observe those who have great influence. They often speak less than expected, but every word lingers. They don't race with speed, they conquer with depth. You can be the same, starting by adjusting the rhythm of your voice today. A little slower, a little clearer, and you will see the difference in how others listen. Speaking slowly so that your words carry weight. This seemingly small principle is the foundation for building a steady presence. It not only changes how others perceive you, but also how you perceive yourself as someone who does not rush to prove, but who stands firm and lets each word rise with the power of composure. The value of a conversation is not measured by its length, but by its depth. People can talk for hours about trivial matters and end up remembering nothing. But sometimes with just one question, an entire dialogue instantly becomes memorable, leaving a lasting resonance in the listener's heart. The secret to creating such moments does not lie in the ability to speak much, but in the art of asking deep questions. Most people are more preoccupied with preparing their turn to speak than with truly listening to others. They wait for the other person to finish just so they can jump in with their own opinion or story. This style of communication creates only surface ripples without genuine connection. By contrast, when you ask a question, you give the stage to the other person. You give them the chance to open up, to share what matters to them, and in that very moment, connection is formed. A deep question is not an ordinary one. It differs from the typical "how have you been" or "everything okay," which easily let conversations drift into autopilot. A deep question is like a key that unlocks a door the other person never intended to open. For example, instead of asking "how's the new job," you might ask "what about the new job excites you the most?" This kind of framing compels the other person not just to provide information, but to share feelings, perspectives, and experiences. And when emotions appear, the conversation becomes real. Asking deep questions is also a way of showing intelligence. Only those who observe and listen carefully can find the right points worth exploring. A well-timed question proves that you pay attention to details, that you genuinely care. The person being asked will sense that respect, and they will open up more. You will hear longer, more honest answers, sometimes containing reflections they have never expressed before. Some people think asking too many questions wastes time. In truth, the right question does not prolong, it deepens. It makes the other person remember you as one of the rare individuals who truly heard them rather than merely hearing sounds. From there, relationships become far stronger than those built on superficial exchanges. Deep questions also expand your own perspective. Each person carries a world of different experiences. When you show the right kind of curiosity, you gain access to stories and viewpoints you would never have considered. You don't just learn new knowledge, you cultivate empathy. Because to ask deeply, you must step into the other person's shoes and sense what matters to them. The art here lies in balance. A good question should not feel like an interrogation. If you bombard someone, they will feel pressured. A deep question only works when it comes from sincerity. You ask because you truly want to understand, not because you want to show off. It is this subtlety that allows the listener to distinguish between genuine care and mere social politeness. There are many ways to practice this skill. First, focus on listening. Don't just listen to words. Pay attention to how they are spoken, the pauses, the eyes, the changes in tone. A good question often arises from such subtle signals. When someone says, "I'm fine," you might respond, "It sounds like something isn't completely fine, is it?" That question shows you not only heard, but also felt. In addition, favor open-ended questions, the kind that requires the other person to think and share more. Instead of asking, "Do you like this job?" ask, "What about this job feels the most meaningful to you?" Open-ended questions lead to richer conversations, while closed ones often end with just a yes or no. In the workplace, this skill is especially valuable. A leader who knows how to ask deep questions can spark ideas, uncover issues, and understand their team. Questions like, "What is the biggest obstacle for you right now?" or "If you could change one thing about this project, what would it be?" provide not only information but also make employees feel heard. And when people feel their voices matter, they work with greater commitment. In personal life, asking deep questions helps build closer, more lasting relationships. Friends, family, or partners all cherish it when you draw them out to share what's on their minds. Sometimes a simple question like, "What moment recently made you feel happiest?" is enough to open a conversation that lasts for hours, creating a warm memory for both. The wonderful part is this: when you learn to ask, you also learn to be silent. Because deep questions require space for answers. Many people rush to jump in after asking, accidentally ruining the moment when the other person was just about to open up. Be patient. That silence is not awkward, it is the space where truth is born. Over time, the practice of asking deep questions forms a habit of thinking. You constantly seek essence instead of settling for surfaces. This habit makes you not only better in communication, but also sharper in work and life. You see what lies behind words, you understand the motivations beneath actions, and that is the foundation of wisdom. A deep question can change the entire direction of a relationship. It can turn an ordinary encounter into a rare bond. It can also transform you from just an acquaintance into someone unforgettable. People forget many things, but they always remember who made them feel truly heard. This world does not lack people who love to talk, but it has very few who know how to ask. If you become one of those few, you will stand out. And that difference needs no display. It shows in the eyes of those who leave a conversation with you, the look of appreciation because they just experienced a real dialogue. Asking deep questions is not about satisfying curiosity, but about enriching the conversation, enriching the relationship, and enriching your own soul. Because each time you draw out an honest answer, you also open a part of yourself, the part that knows how to listen, how to empathize, and how to connect at a deeper level. And that is the true, lasting value of communication. No challenge to confidence is greater than being doubted by others. The skeptical glance, the cold remark, the hesitation to entrust you with responsibility, all of these can make you feel small and disoriented. Yet it is precisely in these moments that true character is revealed. The weak rush to react with anger, defensiveness, or resignation. The strong are different. They stand firm, act wisely, and let results be the final answer. Doubt can come from colleagues, superiors, partners, or even family. More often than not, it does not stem from your uselessness, but from their lack of evidence to believe in you. At times, their doubt merely reflects their own limitations. They do not believe in you because they themselves have never dared to do what you are attempting. The important thing is to realize that doubt is not a life sentence. It is simply an opportunity to prove yourself. And if seized, that opportunity becomes the very springboard that propels you farther than if trust had been given easily. The first thing to avoid when facing doubt is impulsive reaction. A harsh word or an act of defiance may satisfy your ego for a moment, but it will only reinforce others' prejudice. Those truly confident do not need to shout to prove themselves. They wield composure as a weapon. Simply by keeping calm, you send a silent signal, I am not shaken by your doubts. I believe in myself. Standing firm does not mean silent submission. Sometimes you need to speak, but do so with composure, not anger. A simple statement like, I understand your concern, and I will show you through results, both respects the other person and affirms your own conviction. This is the communication style of the strong. They neither lower themselves with flattery nor turn themselves into combative opponents. Instead, they choose to act with dignity and maturity. Composure is only the beginning. The deciding factor is still results. The world seldom believes in empty promises, but everyone believes in undeniable reality. If your ability to complete a project is doubted, let the final product speak for you. If you are underestimated in a discussion, let your rigorous arguments and sharp data speak on your behalf. Do not fall into the trap of trying to win the short-term debate focus instead on creating long-term results. Once achievements exist, every skeptical eye will be forced to change. Standing firm in doubt also means refusing to let your psychology be manipulated. When you believe that other people's judgments define your worth, you have already surrendered control to them. On the other hand, if you know who you are, where you are heading, and have a plan to prove it, then doubt is nothing more than a passing breeze. It may sway you for a moment, but it cannot alter your course. One wise way to turn doubt into an advantage is to use it as fuel. Instead of seeing it as an insult, see it as a test. The urge to prove others wrong can become the driving force for honing your skills, strengthening your discipline, and sharpening your focus. History is full of people who were once doubted, but through persistence and undeniable results eventually earned the respect of even those who had dismissed them. The key point is this: when you stand firm under doubt, you are proving not only your ability, but also your character. A person may be talented, but easily swayed. Such a person will struggle to earn trust in tense situations. In contrast, someone who can control themselves under scrutiny creates a sense of security for the group. That is why many leaders are chosen not only for their skills, but for their composure when tested. It is also worth noting that doubt is not always wrong. Sometimes it is an opportunity for self-reflection. If multiple people repeatedly question the same weakness, perhaps there truly is an area that needs improvement. Standing firm does not mean ignoring everything, but rather discerning which doubts stem from prejudice and which are valuable feedback for growth. Wisdom lies in listening without wavering and absorbing without losing faith in yourself. After you have faced doubt several times and overcome it with results, you will notice a profound change within yourself. Once you may have trembled at judgmental eyes, but gradually composure becomes your natural reflex. You no longer worry about proving yourself to everyone because you know results will speak. And it is this calm assurance that creates presence, that quality, that commands respect without shouting for recognition. Doubt, when viewed rightly, is an inevitable part of growth. It is both a burden and an opportunity. Ordinary people see it as chains. The strong turn it into a springboard. The only difference lies in how you respond: reaction or reflection, anger or composure, wounded pride or demonstrated proof. When you are doubted, do not rush to see it as a full stop. It is only a comma opening a new sentence that you alone will write. And in that sentence, let action and results be the exclamation mark at the end. Once you prove yourself through real strength, doubt is no longer a burden, but a testament that you were strong enough to rise above it. There are moments in life when a room suddenly sinks into silence. Everyone looks around waiting for someone to speak, but no one wants to take responsibility. The fear of making mistakes, of being judged, of bearing the brunt keeps the whole group stalled. It is in those moments that a person's value is measured not by titles or degrees, but by their ability to step up and lead when everyone else hesitates. Collective hesitation is like a fog. It blurs vision, prolongs time, and sometimes makes opportunities slip away. A person who dares to move forward does not need to know the entire path, but they have the courage to break ground. That action not only drives progress, but also sends a powerful signal. Someone is willing to take responsibility, and once one person steps out of line, it becomes easier for the rest to follow. Stepping up to lead does not mean imposing your will. It does not require you to have the perfect answer right away. Leading when others hesitate is simply about jump-starting the process. It could be a simple statement, I think we should begin this way. It could be a small action, writing the first idea on the board, dividing the group, or asking the core question. What matters is not perfection, but that you break the deadlock. The magnetism of those who act lies in this. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They understand that clarity rarely exists before beginning. It only reveals itself once you engage. While the majority sit weighing options only to miss their chance, the one who knows how to lead creates momentum, and that very momentum opens the way to solutions. Behind hesitation usually hides fear, fear of being wrong, fear of responsibility, fear of losing face. Those who know how to lead are not fearless. They simply put fear in its proper place. They accept just enough risk in exchange for progress. They do not see mistakes as the end, but as data for adjustment. As a result, every action brings two values: moving the group forward and demonstrating personal courage. One noteworthy point is that when you dare to step up, you also change how others see you. In work, you will be regarded as someone with initiative worthy of greater responsibility. In life, you become a pillar for friends and family. The impression of being the one who dares to act runs deeper than that of being the smart one who stays silent. Intelligence can be found in many, but the courage to act in hesitation is rare. To cultivate the ability to lead, you don't have to wait for big situations. Start with small moments. When your group struggles to pick a place to eat, you can be the one to suggest. When colleagues hesitate to share ideas, you can voice yours first. Each time you step up, you train yourself to build the habit of responsibility and initiative. These small acts accumulate into great courage. Some may ask, what if I step up and I'm wrong? The answer is few people remember mistakes in detail, but everyone remembers who dared to stand out. Mistakes can be corrected, adjusted. Timidity leaves a lasting mark on how others perceive you. And interestingly, when you dare to act, initial missteps are often forgiven because people understand it was you who broke the silence they themselves could not. A leader is not always the one with formal power. Many times they are simply the first to say, let's do this together. In that moment, authority naturally emerges not from position but from courage. And once you repeat this habit, you build an unspoken credibility. People will gradually expect you to be the first voice. This does not mean you have to be loud or attention-seeking. Leading in hesitation does not require showmanship. In fact, it is often most effective when done calmly and naturally. You do not step forward to prove yourself, but to serve the progress of the whole. When your motive is sincere, your leadership becomes all the more credible. In the decisive moments of life, a critical meeting, a tough negotiation, an unexpected crisis, the ability to step up when others stall will become a decisive advantage. It not only lifts you out of the crowd, but places you in the position of influence. And from influence flow opportunities, trust, and respect. Confidence is not only shown through eyes, voice, or words. It is revealed most clearly in whether you dare to stand in the gap when everyone else is afraid. When you dare to step up, you send a message that you believe in yourself enough to bear the load, to take responsibility, to blaze the trail. And that is the ultimate measure of maturity. Remember, opportunities often disguise themselves in the silence of hesitation. Whoever seizes that moment advances. Whoever waits too long is left behind. Thus, when the air freezes, when eyes dart in doubt, when no one has yet spoken, that is your cue to step forward. One small step, but enough to change the course. If practiced as a habit, this principle will set you apart. You will not only be a participant, but a leader, not just a companion, but a trailblazer. And one day, this steady initiative in small moments will lead you to the great opportunities that others waste away waiting for in vain.